tentative budget, followed by a budget hearing date, which will then occur in September. As we're looking at our revenue on the tentative side, the lines 7 and 8, the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, those are hard numbers. Those are numbers that we received that are confirmed numbers from those respective grants. As we look at line 2, the projected change in our EBF funds, we have not received confirmation on those dollar amounts. We have no reason to believe that that would change significantly from what has been agreed to in terms of how the program would work. But to be conservative, not ultra conservative, but reasonable conservative, we are budgeting about a $2 million increase to our base minimum funding. So as we look at that fiscal 21 number from last year, that base funding was $64,076,905. We're looking at a conservative approach of adding about $2 million to that. There's anticipation that it would be more, but again, being conservative and reasonable, we're looking at that number. Just as we're looking at our investment income, reasonable based on how the economy and the market analysis on the lower side of investments is bearing about $150,000 on the revenue side.
I'll touch on the classroom phone movement, line 90. As we shift away from fixed teachers' desks to a more flexible environment where teachers will have mobile desks, we know that classroom phones currently, for the majority of cases, are stationed on top of the desk. We are now looking at a new opportunity to standardize the location of phones. I've partnered with Mr. Corey Fink, and we're looking at it from a standard just inside every classroom doorway to mount the phones on the wall. That way we establish a standard for any teacher or any staff member who might need to use a phone. We know where it is for any emergency purposes. We were looking at that standard across all of our school buildings for all classrooms. We are estimating a total cost for that reinstallation or movement of $200,000 at this time. We are working with the business office, specifically Dr. Kibbins, to take this out to bid. We'll do it in 2 phases. Phase 1 will be elementary, phase two will be secondary.
So I think that is the overview of the budget assumption process, and certainly defer to the board with any questions.
So the only thing I would add, because this was on the finance committee agenda as well, so some of the questions that was raised during the finance committee was your registration fees for families. We know that is coming out of ESSER. The question was what percentage are we at in our registration rate, which we were informed is 75%, which is phenomenal at this point. But how do we encourage that 25% who still are not registered? Trying to make sure that we're sharing with our families that there are no registration fees, using social media and whatever communication means we have to reiterate that and really push that out there. The other thing is, as Dan talked about the phone lines, as we're relocating them from the stationary desk, as you mentioned, onto the doorways of the buildings, and those lines, they will be using new lines and not repurposing or reusing those existing phone lines.
And then let me ask a question in regards to that. Is that going to be following just standard hard line, or is it going to be a VoIP using the existing phone system?
Great question. Those today they're IP phones, so it'll be a Cat6 cable that gets rewired from our tech closet to the actual location on the wall. The cables.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
Any additional questions for the team? Thank you. All right, next up on the agenda, it looks like we have our 2021 spring summer athletics review. So the entire season of athletics in 2.5 months.
Is this a hold? Yes. Perfect. And Heather, will I be able to advance with this? Perfect. Good evening. Thank you for having me here to share with you part of our school year with athletics. We did have most of our sports happen since the beginning of this calendar year. And so we're going to talk through our 2021 spring and summer seasons. As you can see, our spring season consisted of our contact sports from the fall, traditional fall, which are football, boys soccer, and volleyball. In all sports, our numbers were down, some more than others, and this is just, again, continued to be attributed to the year that we had and students not being in the building and access to our students for recruitment and things that we normally do in a traditional school year in a traditional setting. Just some pictures from the football season. It was just great to see them have that opportunity. I think even just leading up to that, we were still unsure if that was going to happen, and so to be able to have them, and then if you can see in the one picture, there's spectators. Again, something we weren't sure that was going to be able to happen this school year. So just excited to have the opportunity for them to get out on the field and compete, and then also have families there supporting them. Just some highlights from each sports season. Football did have its first win in history against Lakes since they've opened, so that was a great win for the team. And then a very tough overtime loss at home to Grace Lake Central, which was a great game. They fought hard to come back in that game, and it was great to see them compete at that level. Our all-conference athletes in football: Christian Castro, Alex Hare, Kalante Hawkins, Isaiah Nixon, and Jason Wooten. All area: Jason Wooten, first team. Honorable mention: Alex Hare, Kalante Hawkins, and Isaiah Nixon. And our NLCC sportsmanship winner in football was Alex Hare. Up next, you'll see some pictures from our soccer season. Again, just really exciting to see that group. And the picture there on my left, anyways, is our seniors. And so really great for them to have the opportunity to compete, a large group of seniors this year. So really wonderful that they were able to get out there and have that final season here as a Panther. Some season highlights from them: they were the conference co-champions. There were 3 champions. We all beat each other: Grace Lake Central, Lakes, and Round Lake. So we all took turns beating each other, which was great. All conference: Edgar Ortega, Kevin Fuentes, Angel Garcia, Christian Ortiz. There's right there. Yes, Gerardo Perez, Brian Ruiz, and Bruce Ruiz. And then our sportsmanship winner for boys soccer was Ricky Tellez. Up next, you'll see some pictures from our girls volleyball program. If you'll see that center picture there is actually a picture of the live stream in the main gym. I was sitting in my office when I took that picture. Just wanted to see what that feed looked like for our viewers at home. And so I think it's a pretty good picture of, you can actually see the court, which was nice, so that the people that couldn't make it in person were able to still engage and watch those games from home. This is a young, talented team. One of our setters was a freshman. Our best player is a sophomore, so looking forward to their future as a program. They actually started camp this morning at 7 o'clock, and there was about 60 girls in the gym, so really excited to see the kids back and participating in the program. All conference for girls volleyball: Lily Burton and Abigail Gordon, and our sportsmanship award winner in girls volleyball was Victoria Eckstein. As you can see here, just a snapshot of our participation numbers for what we considered the summer season, which did include our traditional spring sports and also wrestling. And you can see our numbers are down again across the board in our sports. And I'm gonna just point out that boys track number. I pointed it out when I made this presentation last year about spring, that I thought that number was unusually high because of the time in this year that they ended up going home for COVID. That number usually trails off. That 82 from 18-19 was at the end of the school year. 19-20 was at the beginning of the school year. And then this spring we had about 50 boys out for the team. So given everything, I thought that was a good number for them, knowing that, as you can see, across the board in our sports, we were down. Just some pictures from boys baseball. Again, great to see them out there. Families, you can see there's a picture from senior night with their families. The weather was great. Throughout the season, we only moved 1 baseball game, which I think might be a record for the season, so that was great news. This is also a very young team. We lost a few of our seniors, chose to work, chose to not come back, and so we had to rely heavily on some of our underclassmen to step up to the plate. We started 4 to 5 freshmen in all of our games this past season, so looking forward to the future with those kids. I'm really excited about them. If that group of kids, we were able to schedule them some JV games. They had a 75% win percentage, playing at the level they should have played at all season. So a talented group of young men who've spent some time preparing for baseball prior to getting to high school. All conference athletes were Alex Hare and Jacob Ralone, and our NLC sportsmanship winner in baseball was Alex Hare. Some beautiful pictures from our soccer season this year. Again, our girls, excited to see them out there playing. I know in the beginning of the season we were worried we wouldn't have 2 levels for girls soccer, and then they just continued to come out, and we were able to have a very good number at both levels for girls soccer. Here are all conference athletes: Adriana Casco, Adrian Gonzalez, Evelyn, I always say her name wrong, Heiser, Annabella Herzer, thank you, Annabella Perry, Kimberly Salgado, and Anna Vasquez. Our NLC Sportsmanship Award winner in girls soccer is Alondra Rusildi, and Coach Josue Jimenez was IHSSCA Soccer Person of the Year. He had been nominated for that award previously, and this year he was the statewide winner for Soccer Person of the Year. Some pictures from girls softball. Girls softball had a rough season in terms of numbers and participation, and a lot of our girls did not have experience coming into the season. We started out playing a varsity schedule and ended up moving that down to a JV level where they were able to have much better competitive skill levels in playing those games. Small but determined. If you went out and watched them practice, they were always working hard, trying to get better. So really proud of them and the work that they put in all season. It would have been very easy given the start of their season to just kind of hang it up, and they didn't. So really proud of them and the work that they put in. All conference in softball was Lily Burton, and our NLC Sportsmanship Award winner in softball was also Lily Burton. Our boys tennis team, just some pictures from the season. Getting able out there on those new courts, which was great for them. I'm really excited about that for them. Our entire varsity team this year had no varsity level experience, but they went out and competed hard in, every match that they participated in. They had a 5th place finish in the NLCC conference. In our all conference, Seth Lampkin finished 2nd at #1 singles, and Seth is a freshman, so really excited for his future here in tennis. He was also a sectional qualifier. And then our NLCC Sportsmanship Award winner for boys tennis was Jesus Silva. Pictures from our boys track season. You can look at that list of all conference athletes in boys track. Alfredo Acosta, Cody Arenas, Adrian Becerra, Alejandro Gomez, Alex Kopek, Mauricio Martinez, Tyler McManus, Edgar Sanchez, and Saul Valadez. They had a great season. They worked hard. For being short, they were very determined to be successful this year. We had a couple of IHSA state qualifiers: Cody Arenas in the 32-meter run, Alex Gomez in the 100-meter and 300-meter hurls, and Tyler McManus in the triple jump. As you notice, this was the only season that we did have a state series, so excited that we were able to send a few kids down to that. We also had a bunch of record holders from this season. We had Cody Arenas in the 3,200-meter run, Brown, McManus, Salgado, Wooten in the 4x200-meter relay, Gomez in the 100-meter and 300-meter hurdles, McManus in the long jump, and Wooten in the high jump. So again, a really successful season for the boys track, and our NLCC Sportsmanship Award winner for boys track was Mauricio Martinez. Sorry, click through those too quickly. Some pictures from girls track. Throughout this season, there were 75 personal bests throughout the season, including 7 at the IHSA sectional. So those girls worked hard all season, pushing themselves to their limits so that they can improve throughout the year. Jenny Cortez has our 2nd place all-time record in school history in the 3,200-meter run. We had 11 JV conference medalists, so again, looking forward to the future from that group as well. Our all-conference runners, Jenny Cortez in the 1,600-meter and the 3,200-meter run, and Karina Irigoyen in the 100-meter. And our NLCC Sportsmanship Award winner in girls track was Melissa Mungia. And the sport that I did not think was going to have a season this year is wrestling. You can see some pictures from this season, and they were unmasked. If you're wondering why wrestling for safety was not allowed to, they did not wrestle with masks on, for a safety factor. All conference in wrestling, 106 pounds, Grayson Concau, 113, Alejandro Cordova. At 170, James Bills, and at 182, Aiden McCann. They did not have a state series, but we do participate in the IWCOA series at the end of the year typically. And so just to highlight those athletes who were successful at that level, we had some sectional qualifiers from there. 106-pound Grayson Concau, 113 Alejandro Cordova, 170 Lewis Daniels, 182 Aiden McCann, and Eric Tellez at 285 pounds. And those kids extended their season to have those opportunities. So they're just a determined group of young men. And our NLCC Sportsmanship Award winner in wrestling is Eric Mora. I just want to highlight some things that are going on inside the department as well. The first thing I'll talk about is our head coach intensive. I met with all 14 head coaches last Thursday. We met for 8 hours. And they're still talking to me afterwards. We had a great meeting, talked about a lot of things, from why we do what we do as a program to what our focus should be inside of our program, the things we can do to support each other. And the focus of that day was about our student experience and how we can make their experience better through participation in athletics here in our district. Upcoming, we have a fall kickoff. We're going to, on August 20th, have all of our fall sports compete on campus, get out and support each other, hopefully have some spectators and some students. I was hoping that was the first Friday of school, and as of this afternoon, it's not. But still looking forward to getting our kids excited about getting back in school and engaging in the things and the activities we have at the high school. And so looking forward to that event with all of our teams. As you can see, the logos on the screen look a little bit different. They're similar but different. And that Panther Athletics at the bottom is something that we're going to use as we move forward as a program to move away from maybe what people think we were to who we are becoming. And so we wanted to be fresh with that. We thought the break we took a lot of time working together to talk about what it means to be a Panther and be a part of our program, and really excited about moving forward and having this fresh look to our program and the things that we do. And then I think I mentioned this to you before, but our heart is our foundation of what we believe in our program, and the H is hard work, exceed expectations, accountability, resilience, and teamwork. And those are foundational values that we're going to be intentionally teaching inside of all of our programs. And so we talked, that was part of our Thursday meeting as well, is what that looks like across the board so that our students are having similar experiences from sport to sport inside of the program. And then you can just see our hashtag Heart of a Panther. That's something that we'll continue to use on social media as we continue to promote this and teach this to our athletes. I'll talk just a little bit about the vision. I've shared this with you before. Certainly the last 18 months have put a giant wrench into some of the plans that we had to move this program forward, but I do believe that we are continuing to grow together and get better as a program. The first thing is just to increase our opportunities for student participation, whether that's by adding sports, by getting more students out for the sports that we already have, and creating opportunities for students inside of our program. Continue to increase articulation throughout our district. We're going to be working on a strategic plan in our program, and I will be inviting the middle school athletic directors to come to that so that they can kind of see what we're doing at high school level and how that we can incorporate what they're doing at a middle school level into what we're doing at a high school level. Working to add a strength and conditioning program inside of before and after school, and then also integrating that with our PE department so that our athletes are building towards success as an athlete here in our high school program. And continuing that Panther Athletics brand, just continue to enhance that and share what that is, and as we move forward with that new branding and really being intentional about who we want to be as a program. And then the last piece down there is to add a student athletic support program. This would be like a sports information program using our students to get out to games, do some reporting, helping on social media, and then also like game day management so that they could be there greeting teams, taking teams to locker rooms and things like that. So working to increase participation in that way where it's maybe not on a team, but participating as part of and supporting the program. So, and that's it. Any questions?
Yeah. I have some questions. I do like the updates. It is good to have all that information. However, when I look at the 3 to 5 year vision for the athletic department, I see only high level. I would like to see action plan with timelines and tangible goals. How are we going to improve our athletic department? Increasing opportunities for student participation is great, but what are we doing? What is some timelines and goals, and how are we going to achieve that? How are we going to increase our participation numbers? I know this last year is not the best example of that, and we also know, as you mentioned with softball, our teams need some work. How do we help improve these programs? How do we make that connection with our community so that we can help our feeder programs, whether it's soccer, baseball, football, the cheerleading? How do we make that connection in our community to help our feeder programs so that it helps our students and our athletics overall?
Becky, would you be willing to maybe come back in September or something with not necessarily like a full team update, but just a kind of a highlight of your vision and what your tactics are? Then I think that would address Ms. McGinley's questions. And I think, again, this year was a little bit rough, but and I think it's really great to have a vision. And you actually articulated some of the details just at the end of this presentation. So what I'm wondering is if we could literally just take these bullet points that you have here and then just like scope them out one per slide or something, and that would give the board an idea of where you're headed. Is that something you think you could put together?
Absolutely.
Awesome, thank you.
I just want to make sure we have timelines and tangible, achievable goals. I know our athletics needs a lot of work, and I know it's not going to happen in 1 year or maybe even 2, but without having written out goals and how we're going to work to achieve those, it's really going to be hard. It's hard for me to see how we're moving this forward.
Any other questions?
Are you aware of how the change in participation compares at Round Lake versus other districts?
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty much the same at every school. The only anomaly I know of in this area was Grace Lake North in baseball, and they had about 65 kids come out, and that's the only school in the area that had any team that was at where they had been prior to. Almost every school played less levels this year in all sports than they have in the past. So I would say this is not unusual for the year that we had and the lack of engagement and lack of students on campus. And there's probably a few other reasons we could talk about, but I think that's very similar to what other schools in this area saw all year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Becky.
All right, next up, looks like we've got Ms. Danf with the Department of Professional Learning update.
Well, good evening, everyone, and as always, thank you for your time. Tonight, I'd like to talk a little bit about how our department's work connects to the work of the district overall and our goals. So you all know that the district's mission is to inspire and empower students to construct a thriving future. And there's a lot that goes into that, right? So everything from curriculum to our programs to how our schools look to our parent engagement, and of course, our staff. So our staff, an inspired and empowered staff, I should say, can radically and momentously impact the way that a kid experiences school. And that might sound like the most obvious thing that you've heard tonight, but hear me out for a minute. We all know, and we've encountered this perception out there that teaching is somehow a stagnant profession. You know, you get hired and you get tenure and you retire and that's it. And unfortunately, sometimes teachers themselves can subscribe to that mindset. And that breaks my heart. And I know that it breaks yours too, because that is not what we want for our staff. We want our staff to feel just as inspired and empowered as our students. We want for our staff to come to work and feel like they have everything they need at their fingertips to become the professional and the person that they want to be. So just imagine for a moment a school in which every single staff member feels inspired and empowered, where they feel like they have that same potential for growth, that same sense of possibility, the same resources, the same ability to set their own goals and share their own learning that we want for our kids. And now imagine being a student in that school. When your teachers said that learning was important, you would know that they were being serious because you'd sense their excitement. You would sense their conviction. You would know that they were really invested in your learning. And the reason that they would be invested in your learning was because the district was investing in their learning. And I don't mean that just monetarily. I mean that in terms of its mindset, its practices, just the way that it does business. So that is our why. That is the driving force behind everything that we at the Department of Professional Learning are doing. So as I switch into our how and how we're doing all of this, just keep thinking of this why as kind of our driving force, I guess our North Star, the thing that we are always trying to reach more and more toward. So let's talk tangibly about how we are trying to achieve this. We're focusing on 3 methods this year. Firstly, to continue to provide the most personalized, choice-based PD for all of our staff that we can. Then, to make sure that all of that PD is exceptionally high quality. And finally, to make sure that every single one of our leaders feels very supported and firmly grounded in their ability to support staff. And as I'm talking about our what, everything that's up here connects back to that how and then in turn that why. So these aren't just disconnected random items on a list. These are all things that are revolving around that central idea, that vision that we have for our staff environment. So I talked a little bit last time about this 4-path structure. I'd like to talk a lot more about it now because it's, I think, the most robust and the most choice-based PD catalog that we've ever provided for our staff. Basically, this 4-path structure is the umbrella that all of the mandatory PD that we're doing next year falls underneath. So staff get to think not just about what they're going to learn, but how they're going to learn it. When I say how, I mean the structure, right, of the PD that they're doing. So they got 4 options. One of them is workshops, just very, I guess, traditional in a way. There's a person who facilitates your learning through activities. There's success teams. We started those this past year. It's a small discussion-based group, like a driving research question at the middle. There's coaching. We've been doing coaching for a year and a half now. Coaching is one-on-one work with a trained coach around a goal that you pick. And then fourthly, the action faction. That's new for this year. The action faction is a small collective of staff members that works together to make, establish, or create something. So this year's action faction is going to be focused on equity, and they will be establishing equity parameters, guidelines. They will be creating something together. So with our staff, they pick one path. Then once they're in that path, they get choices as to what they're learning. So if they picked workshops, we had something like 3 dozen workshops available for our staff to choose from. They picked success teams. We had probably 25 success team topics that they could pick. They pick coaching. They get to work on a goal with their coach. So building that choice in was really, really deliberate. Now, this almost isn't fair. I get the pleasure of standing here and telling you about this awesome system, but it wouldn't happen, and I do mean that seriously, it would not happen without the collaborative work of so many other people in the district. Administrators such as coordinators, directors, principals, assistant principals are facilitating PD. Then we have local leaders, teachers coming forward and saying, I believe in our staff. I think they deserve as much choice as possible. And coming forward and facilitating teams, workshops, people who are trained coaches stepping forward and saying, I'd like to be on the coaching menu, sign me up for that. People taking a risk and doing the action faction, which again is totally new. So we don't really know how it's gonna work, but it's that collective idea that our staff deserves something innovative and deserves something that gives them as much choice as they want. That brought together about 70 different leaders from across the district to make this happen. So I'm so grateful that I work on a team where we can have something like this, and we are continuing all of our existing foundational programs like Summer Academy, like badging, through the continued work of this collaborative team. So badges, for instance, we're rolling out new badges this year because that's a program that our staff seems to really like. So we have departments coming forward. For instance, science pitched a curious learner badge. My department is working on a reflective practitioner badge, portfolio-based, put together some videos, some artifacts of your own growth, earn a competency-based badge for it. So we feel like we've laid this good foundation, but we're still trying to push forward and innovate on top of it. I also want to talk a little bit about our focus on quality. So I think I mentioned last time, it's not like we've ever not been interested in having high quality PD. Of course, we always want our PD to be good. Right from year one, we set up Presenter Academy. We established that every single person who facilitates PD needs to come, needs to earn that badge, needs to learn what good PD looks like. But we want to keep going because there is always room for improvement, especially if you are a PD facilitator. So we have our PD specialist, and she is basically providing coaching for all of our facilitators. How will they know what good PD is? We've set up, I guess I can't call them rubrics, but I would call them checklists of quality indicators. So this is a good success team. This is what good coaching looks like. This is a good action faction. This is a good workshop. And she's observing, almost like walkthroughs, I guess, for PD. She's meeting with them one-on-one. She's reviewing presentations, reviewing lesson plans, and she's having monthly huddles, as am I, with all the facilitators in each path. So all the success team leaders, for instance, coming together and sort of doing some group coaching, some troubleshooting, some holding up what they're doing with what the quality indicators are to just really drive the quality up. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit about supporting leaders because we have so many PD leaders and they do a ton of work. It's not an easy task to lead 20, 30 of your colleagues along a professional learning journey for an entire semester. It's very hard, actually. So we want to give them every resource possible and let them know that we're here for them. We're doing that in a few ways. I talked already about the monthly huddles, and I think those are key because coming together with other people in the trenches is one of the ways that you feel the most supported. But we are also having book studies for all of our admin and all of our PD leaders where they pick a topic they're interested in. We have 3 options: Dare to Lead, Competency-Based Education, and We Got This by Cornelius Minor, book on equity. So they can pick the topic that they think is the most pertinent to them and then meet with other people and have these discussions about that particular topic. Programmatic agency. What I mean by this is all of our different departments, whether they're curricular like science, math, and so on, or whether they're a program like student development, all of our building leaders have so many tools to get the PD that they need to the right audience. So whether that means proposing workshops or whether that means, as many departments did, casting a huge net. So we had departments that put workshops, success team, and a coach all on the roster and sign someone up for the action faction. This means that they're casting the broadest net possible, right? Their reach is much more extensive than if they had just said, well, I guess we'll just do one success team, for 10 people. No, they are able to stretch their arms in ways that they haven't before. And then the last thing I want to talk about is our admin induction program. This is something that we've had for a few years, but we want to get better and better every year, and here's the plan for this year. In addition to having what we've had before, which is some resources available on Canvas and a few activities that new administrators can go through on that platform, we're really amping up the mentoring component of this. So all of our incoming administrators, whether they're experienced or not, have been partnered up with a veteran administrator in our district. And much like the teacher mentoring program, they have very specific agendas that they go through each month. And each agenda is a combination of the technological how-tos that you just need to know. Here's how to do this on Skyward, here's how to do this on Infinite Campus, but also some really high-level intensive leadership theory topics. So for instance, their first meeting, they go through some of our instructional philosophies, things like mastery learning, standards-based grading, and they sort of question their mindset. They talk about how they might respond to teachers' questions about these topics. And we think that that is a great way of prepping them for the work that they might do in their own role and also making them just feel more confident as a leader in our district because we want to grow our leaders and we want to keep them. So just wrapping up, I said at the beginning, I talked a lot about our why and I talked a lot about how we're trying to make that a reality. Every year as we make improvements and as we introduce some new programs and revise others, every change we make shouldn't just be, oh, we're trying something new. It should always link back to that why, that vision for our staff, and always bearing in mind what a truly inspired and empowered staff can do for our students. So as always, I welcome your feedback and thank you so much for your time.
Questions from the board?
No question, but I thought that was great. I really enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you.
I do have I'm sorry, I've got a question. You had said something I just wanted to add some clarity about. You said there are mandatory training in certain paths. Was that accurate? Did I hear that correct?
Everyone signs up for one path because we have a PD day each month, and so we want to make sure everyone's doing something. So they pick a path, they stick to it for the whole semester.
Got it. So the PD is mandatory. The topic or whatever, how the process goes, is by choice.
Yes, that's correct.
How much of that is the PD 100% by choice, or are there mandatory elements?
So anytime we need to do a mandatory PD, so I'll give you an example. At the start of the year, there's often a lot of mandatory stuff because we have curriculum, we have SEL supports, we have some equity initiatives that we want to make sure all staff gets those. We do those right at the start of the year, kind of as in like a meeting structure, right? We're having a 6 through 12 math meeting. Here's some of our new topics. Here's some of our resources. We're doing an equity keynote speaker on August 13th. But then throughout the semester, it's the 4 paths. So the mandatory things are kind of right up front, figuring, hey, you got to know this stuff, so let's do it day 1. But then as the year goes along, November, December, when motivation might flag, to be honest with you, we figure if people are in stuff that they picked, it'll be a little bit more engaging for them. Did I answer your question, sir?
No, that was perfect, because I was curious how you integrate the mandatory with the voluntary. I think.
Well, and new staff have mandatory PD as well.
Yes, they do. And there's a couple things with that. Our 3-day orientation plus a hybrid course, RLU, like the key components, standards-based grading, assessment. We do that too, but we've done it in a hybrid format so that it's not, like they don't have to do that instead of the 4 paths.
Any additional questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up is our CEDAW Governing Board update from Mrs. Larson, so take it away.
Okay. So a couple things. In June we met, and pretty much it was, new members, appointments, a lot of things of just like when after election, all that good stuff, because we only meet 4 times a year. Couple of things of note. We did move to in-person meetings, which is very cool. This coming week, CEDAW's executive board is meeting, and they're swearing in their new executive people. The regional safe school is actually going to move to Sid Lash, which is kind of new, kind of cool. They did talk about their budget, and it will impact everybody who uses CEDAW, 3% increase across the board. Enrollment's a little bit down, staffing's a little bit down, so it's kind of impacting kind of like we knew was going to come. They are also having a governing onboarding virtual meeting, and in case my partner would like to go to that, I will get you all the details. I'm also going to see if they're going to have something I can take from that for you guys, so that what they basically do is they give you the gist of what they do at the meetings, but then they do a nice overview of all the programs that CEDAW has. And since I've been doing it forever, I know all those things. So I thought it'd be nice for you guys to have. And that's about it.
Any questions for Ms. Larson on CEDAW? Great. All right, next up is our school improvement plan monitoring. We've got Dr. Rowling and Ms. Kiewicz, so take it away. And again, just as a reminder, board, please make sure we're pushing down the button so that we're speaking into the microphones. for the purpose of our live streaming. Thank you.
Good evening. As you're aware, every year all schools create a comprehensive school improvement plan, and periodically throughout the year we bring you updates through school monitoring. We've color coded our updates to align with the way we color code the strategic plan to make it nice and easy for you. And this evening we presented you with every school's plan monitoring of their plans with their end of the year updates. So this is the final installment for this year. And then about October, we will bring you the new school improvement plans that we will be implementing during the next school year. Are there any questions?
And just to remind the board, this is a requirement for some of our schools, but we've made the decision, because remember, if we had the summative designations, so we have to do this. We just said, well, we're not going to just do that for a few schools. Let's just implement a consistent process across the board. So we're going to continue with that.
And we do update the state 3 times a year for the schools that have to submit their school improvement plans, and then the state does review those. So the same monitoring goes on with the state in the Iowa system.
And I was just going to say thank you for going to the uniform coloring method. That definitely makes it easier, at least for me, and I'm sure the rest of the board as well. Thank you. All right, next up is a review of our NYHIP medical insurance for 21-22, the fun and exciting discussion of insurance, and Dr. Gibbons.
Absolutely. So this information is for communication only. As a reminder, board, we are a member of NYHIP, which is a co-op with many school districts within the state of Illinois. So we have the benefits of collective pricing as well as the benefit of a larger scale when we're looking at benefits and supporting that of our employees and our benefit package. As you review the data information from 2021 to 21-22, you'll notice a decrease in what our overall percentages of our premium. On the PPO side, it was 3.6% increase this year. On the HMO health side, it was a increase of 0.4%, and no change on the PPO or HMO dental. That is all.
Any questions from the board? Thank you. All right, next up is disposal of furniture. Dr. Lampy.
Thank you. As you know, that the board approved the use of EFSER funds in order to purchase new furniture for both students and staff. This furniture is coming in the form of student desks, tables, student chairs, teacher workstations. Also, the furniture that we are receiving is coming in waves. The first wave is coming in late July, early August, which is the middle school and high school student tables and chairs and the teacher chairs. First week in August, 700 elementary student tables will be coming in. Around the second week in September, over 3,000 student tables and 4,000 student chairs for the elementary will be coming in, and the final wave will be in November. We recently have, the board has supported, and we thank you for the purchase of a warehouse. That warehouse will not be acquired until the end of August. At that time, I also have to work to get an occupancy certificate, cameras on it, swipes, etc. While this new furniture comes in, the old furniture has to come out. Traditionally, when we communicate with you disposal, we are able to tell you exact numbers, exact items, etc. What I'm wishing to communicate to the board is we will be disposing of items in multiple ways. Repurposing, so finding ways to use that furniture in different places, such as moving tables over to the OSC and repurposing their break room over to the new warehouse, etc. We will be looking to sell these items either to staff or the community, donate the items to other schools that might be in need, recycle, take the metal to a scrapper, etc., and dispose. After this process of the new furniture comes in, we will be able to disclose to the board exactly how many pieces and how they were disposed of. Again, this is a little different than what we have traditionally done, and I'm asking your understanding given the amount that we are moving. The other thing, given the complex situation with the warehouse. Although we have a warehouse of about 3,000 square feet, that warehouse we are filling up right now with playground equipment that is gonna go on the new playground. So I really don't have anywhere in the meanwhile to go with the furniture that we're gonna be either storing or disposing. Please know there are 3 different avenues we're doing. We have brand new furniture coming in. We have furniture that and instructional items we need to keep, but we cannot put in the spaces in order to get all the students back. And then we have the disposal. So I'm also looking for storage. Given our situation, we'll be renting about 8 cargo containers. They will be placed at various school locations. We'll be renting them by the month. As soon as I can get the items that we're storing into a location, we will release the cargo containers and send them back. And I believe that cost will be less than $10,000. This is an overview of the situation we'll be facing as we try to transport and transition the furniture. Any questions that I can answer?
Of course I do, right? So I just looking for clarity. So with the furniture, there's 3 paths. One is we're either going to use it. The second one is either we're going to hold it because if the guidelines change, this equipment that we have is the best method or the best tool to be able to deliver the instruction. Or the third is we're going to dispose of it if it's an opportune time to dispose of this equipment anyway, and we're just using that. Is that correct?
Correct. The T&L department has worked with the union to come up with standard furniture designation for each of the levels. So the furniture that we will go into storage are things that will go into a standard classroom, get when the space and the distancing requirements are released. That will go into storage. Instructional items, easels, things like that will go into storage. The rest of it will either be repurposed, sold, it will be scrapped, it will be disposed of.
Additional.
The only thing I was gonna add, again, this was a, item on the, finance committee. As Mary said, they'll repurpose, they're being strategic with all the furniture. Also to keep in mind, we had asked regarding, as we bring those students back into from Pleviac, those opportunities possibly with that furniture, because we would hate to dispose or, get rid of furniture that we possibly would need as we bring those students back into the district.
And I'm just looking for a little bit of just another question. So, for instance, I remember going through some of the sites where there was equipment like collaboration tables, right? Where everyone was around one table. But if there's a distancing requirement, that table is impossible. But that was the best method or the best process to be able to, that's the sort of things you're talking about to be stored, correct?
Correct. Great instructional practices might require the collaboration of students. Unfortunately, we cannot do that. The new furniture that was purchased in the future will allow groups of students to come together and separate. But there will be a need for, you hear of horseshoe tables or various tables, so there still will be a need for some instructional spaces, maybe that are doing learning loss, English proficiency, etc., that will need tables. Those will go into storage. So when the requirements of the distancing are gone, we can bring those back into the classroom.
All right, I think we are good, and thank you for that. All right, next up is more disposal, this time obsolete technology equipment.
Good evening. As you can tell, this memo is consistent with previous tech recycling efforts and communication. This time around, our efforts are centered on Chromebooks exclusively. And special thanks to Luis Cortez, who is sitting here tonight helping us stream, as he found a tech vendor willing to provide up to $40 for each of the Chromebooks we are recycling. I will be bringing back a total count once the vendor has inspected the Chromebooks and gives us a total amount that they will be donating back to the district.
Sounds good. Any questions or comments from the board? Thank you very much. All right, next one now is yet another outcome of disposal of the district vehicles. We'll go back to Dr. Lambert.
Thank you. In April, the Board of Education gave the Operations Department the ability to purchase new vehicles. With that became the disposal of the obsolete vehicles. Dr. Kibbins and the Finance Department did a great job at posting for the vehicles and placing them out in a visible area. And this memo outlines the funds that were recouped from the sale of those vehicles.
Any questions or comments in regards to the funds? Thank you very much for that. Next one up is contracts under 1,000. I don't believe I saw any in there, so we will move on from that. The board had a chance to review the FOIA requests. Any questions or comments in regards to the FOIA requests? Excellent. So next up, we will move to public comment. As always, members of the public may participate in public comment during regular board meetings by attending in person or by submitting an electronic public comment form. Please note that speakers are limited to 3 minutes in length. A link to the electronic public comment form may be accessed via the online board meeting package located on the district website. Electronic public comments will be accepted up until the time the board reaches the public comment section of the meeting agenda. At this time, do we have any public comment? Or at least electronic public comment?
We have one. This was submitted on July 9th by April Mata, who's a parent community member. It states, please reconsider following the new CDC guidelines regarding masks, unless there is a plan in place to verify who is vaccinated and who isn't. Even then, every staff member will not be able to identify every vaccinated student. The only way to be sure to keep all of the students safe is to keep them in masks until all ages have the ability to be vaccinated. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for that. And now we will turn it over to, is there any public comment here in the meeting room? Seeing no public comment, we will move forward then to the superintendent's report and turn it over to Dr. Mendoza.
Thank you, Board President Francisco and Board of Education. An announcement was made today to staff and families regarding a necessary change to the 2021-2022 school calendar. The change in the start date of school by 1 week, now scheduled for Monday, August 23rd for students, was necessary due to the expected delivery date of classroom furniture. The additional week will go a long way toward having classrooms ready for students on August 23rd. Masking survey results and next steps. Last week, we asked the staff and parents to complete a short survey requesting their current preference as it relates to the implementing masking procedures across the district at the start of the school year. This information has been very helpful in our analysis of options and will be part of the overall process of making a final determination. In summary, approximately 81% of our staff completed the survey. That's an exceptionally high return rate. 28% of the staff supported required masking at the start of the year. 44% of the staff supported making masking optional for vaccinated individuals. 28% of the staff supported making masks optional for vaccinated individuals and recommended for unvaccinated individuals. 1,244 surveys were submitted by parents of District 116 students. 55% of the parents supported required masking at the start of the year. 22% of the parents supported making masking optional for vaccinated individuals. And 23% of the parents supported making masks optional for vaccinated individuals and recommended for unvaccinated individuals. You have all that in front of you. So it is important to note that Lake County school superintendents will be meeting with the Lake County Health Department this week. That is actually Wednesday morning. We anticipate receiving updated information regarding masking guidelines. We feel that following the Lake County Health Department meeting, we will have enough information and data in order to make a decision on masking guidelines for Round Lake Area School District 116. In summary, we expect to finalize that decision this week. In addition to that, I believe I have shared with our planning teams what about 15 other districts are doing, not only in close proximity, so other Lake County school districts, but other districts that are in the athletic conference, A little bit of a difference there is many of those are high school only, so they don't have to really think about elementary and middle school age children. And then I've also given feedback regarding other LUDA school districts, large unit districts. So we will not be making decisions in a vacuum. We have a lot of information to consider. And I would tell you districts are doing different things all over the county. I just can tell you that right now. And that will continue to be that way. So that concludes my superintendent's report. And at this time, I'll defer to the board if you have any questions.
Just one question with the date change for the start of school. Will that be coming to the board to submit the new calendar to ISB?
Yes, we'll bring that back in August for formal approval.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I don't know if we're gonna talk about it, but later, but for the board, especially like with the calendar change and things like that, do we need to have a conversation about potentially adding a second August meeting?
So I think, yeah, the answer is yes. And I think you'll know more as we enter into closed session. There's something in there that may prompt it. But I think given the calendar change, it might be prudent for the board to consider scheduling another August meeting. So.
I'll just open it up. I know at least from my viewpoint, I think with that calendar change and then with the furniture situation and all of that, I definitely think we may want to consider that.
Well, honestly, I can't think of a year we haven't added that second meeting in August. We always say one, but there's always enough going on in the district that we add that second meeting. It's always with the best intentions for a summer break, but the work here is never done.
Would you mind, Board President Francisco, if we threw a couple dates out? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Mary, didn't you have a couple dates? Was it August 5th or 6th?
Yeah, it was around there, but if we can get.
So here's what we'll do. We'll shoot out, after this meeting tomorrow morning, we'll shoot out an email to the board with some options, and then you can tell us what you can make and can't, if that works.
Sounds good, thank you. All right, next up are committee reports. I believe we had a very long finance committee meeting today, so take it away.
Well, it was long, but it is a reiteration of the board agenda we're doing today. Again, due to the 1 month meetings for summer, a lot of the items on our finance committee we have covered already in the agenda or are to be coming up. So I will highlight and go over those items that are not on the board agenda this evening. So there's really, even though, like I said, it was a long meeting, there's only just a few. I will start with the RLAS ticket spigot contract. That contract is for the electronic ticketing that we used for the football season. We will continue, they want to continue to move that going forward, which I think, the Finance Committee does support. Of course, there is a cost with doing the electronic ticket. And so it's to not pass that cost on to our families. It would be absorbed by the district. It is fairly minimal. We would be using that for athletics. We asked them to look at the fine arts department as well if they need to use it. I know they do have their own for the theater for the plays because they do assigned seating, but if there's opportunities, we want to make sure we include all those in the district. So that would be electronic. We asked that they come back with some data, some numbers, and how that is working, and of course, to push out that communication to our families as much as possible. Maybe a QR code at the gates, putting it out not only on our athletic page, but our district page, social media, and really push that out there so that families and students know that that opportunity is there. And maybe a little training with it, because I think we all struggled with it a little ourselves when that came out.
I'll just ask a question. I don't know if it came up in finance, but I noted boosters have the season pass for the family. Is that built into can that be built into the electronic ticketing package into Ticket Spigot?
I think Kurt's going to have to look into that with Becky.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, because there's a couple things we asked about, you know, and I know they're gonna have to come back with some of that. I guess it's not on the agenda today, so hopefully we'll have all that information when it comes to us for approval. But again, I think it is a great thing as everyone moves to cashless, electronic, less contact. The other item is the intrusion alarm replacement. As everybody knows, our building automation needs some update. So this intrusion alarm replacement is for all our buildings, with the exception of Plebia, because that is not our building. It will include the OSC, McGee, and once we have access and get that building situated, it will include the new warehouse. That is being funded out of life safety. It is noted in the memo, and again, I always ask that the board refer to the finance packet as well. You know, they are working on making a budget for Corey. Again, this is only intrusion. It still is a separate system for fire, but we are working on to getting everything under one umbrella. But it is a step forward, and you know, we do have a lot of false alarms that go off, and that does cost the district money.
My two quick questions on that would be the Calvary Church building and also the Welcome Center. Are those included, not included?
Welcome Center, I believe, is not included because it's not our building. So again, if it's not our building, we cannot, if we install it, we can't take it back. We can't take those materials back. The church is.
The Calvary Church would not be in there. We do have cameras on that. We don't have any, we have chairs and that are gonna be disposed of, but there's no other equipment in there. But we have fitted that with cameras that we can see movement.
Thank you.
And I'm sure as we move forward with that facility, that we would still look at that. But again, it is a big upgrade for the district. The last item is the debt profile and bond refunding. This is still information only for finance and for the board. Our debt service refunding opportunities, there is some possible legislation that would be of great monetary value to the district and to our taxpayers in our community. Pam being as diligent and vigilant with our finances as always. We're looking at specifically two debt service refunding opportunities with our 2015 A bonds and our 2015 B bonds. Again, she is just watching. There are callable dates with these bonds as we approach them and as we watch this legislation that we believe is getting good traction. We will come back to the board with opportunities possibly, for lack of a better term, of refinancing, so to speak. That's not what we would use for these bonds, but to make it more relatable. You know, if you go to refinance your house or you can get a better interest rate, that's what we're looking to do here. But again, we're waiting for that to take traction. Again, we want this to be as little impact or no impact of what we call the negative arbitrage amount that would be to the district. So again, it's just informational. I would encourage the board to go to the finance packet and read those slides. It is a lot of information, a lot of detail, and as we know, school finance and bonds is not the most simple language to try to converse with. But again, it's just informational. So again, I would encourage you to read those slides. Again, Pam always doing her due diligence. If we have the opportunity to save the district money and not extend this debt, that's what we're looking to do.
Thank you. Any other questions for the committee?
That's the only things, again, on the finance agenda that are not on our agenda, unless Mr. DeVera had anything else to add. All right, that's it. Thank you.
All right, now we move into the approval part of our board meeting.
All right, I need a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes of June 21st, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Larson, second by Ms. Lee. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Lee? Yes. Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Motion passes.
I need a motion to approve the special board meeting minutes of June 21st, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Larson. Any questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Ms. Lee? Yes.
And motion passes.
I need a motion to approve the consent agenda for the accounts payable report in the amount of $3,107,103.75. Previous motions report for $440,059.66. The June 2021 treasurer's report and the employment report listed for July 19th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Lee. Any questions? Roll call.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Ms. Lee? Yes. Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
And motion passes, which now brings us to the introduction of administration.
Good evening. Tonight I have the privilege to introduce Joe Williams as the new Assistant Principal of Student Services at Round Lake Middle School. Joe earned his bachelor's degree from Carthage College in 2010. He later earned his master's degree from Concordia in 2017. Joe is a family man. He enjoys spending time with his family. He has 4 children, and his wife, Sivan, is with us today. If you can wave your hand, welcome, Sivan, to Round Lake Area School District. Joe, in his free time, when he's not working, he enjoys spending time with his family. He enjoys roller coasters. He enjoys grilling out. He enjoys arcade games with his kids. But when it comes to work, Joe's very passionate about personalized learning, and Joe's very passionate about social justice. And those 2 things have stuck with him throughout his career. He's in his 12th year of education. He has taught social studies and math and science. He's been a behavior interventionist as well as an instructional coach. And last year he was an assistant principal at Zion District 6. So we are very excited to have Joe with us here tonight. And without further ado, I'm going to have him come up and say a few words. I'm very excited about having Joe on the team this year, and we're looking forward to a great year. Welcome, Joe Williams.
Hey, Joe, make sure you hold the button in or you'll get cut off when you're speaking.
Mr. Higgs, Dr. Mendoza, members of the board, and everybody here tonight, I have the distinct privilege of being here tonight with optimism, passion, and focus. Sincerely honored to be given the opportunity to serve the Round Lake Area School District, our staff, our families, and most importantly, our scholars. As mentioned by Mr. Higgs, my educational background has offered me a plethora of opportunities which allow me to look at situations from a variety of perspectives. Opportunities I firmly believe have prepared me for this position. Outside of these experiences, I come with my own personal experiences. Growing up in a diverse community with parents who never stopped working so that I could have opportunities that they didn't, each one conquering their own traumas in the process. While we may not have had the luxuries that everybody else had, we always had each other, and I was taught many times over to love everybody, to embrace everybody for their uniqueness, to be genuine, and to do right by others. I was blessed to meet my beautiful wife early in my career, and through her work as a professor of educator at Carthage College, overseeing the urban education program, we center our thoughts, our conversations, our actions on justice. The notion that every educator should have the tools needed to succeed and to feel supported, and that every child should have the opportunity to a personalized, equitable, and fulfilling education. It's not only what we expect from our own 4 children, but every single child in this world as well. This school year and for many more to come, I promise that I can continue to maintain and work towards a vision of equity for all. I promise to be honest, kind, transparent, bold, and diligent in ensuring that everyone within the Round Lake community feels supported and cared for. I promise to hold myself and others accountable for our actions and words, and I would expect the same of me in return. Finally, I promise that my thoughts and actions will be centered always on what is best for our scholars. I intend to fully focus on vision moving forward and looking nowhere but forward. Because if you cannot see how steep the mountain is, then you cannot fear it. Everything is possible. Thank you so much for this opportunity to serve this community, and I look forward to an outstanding 2021 and 2022 school year. Thank you.
All right, and I think we're back down to new business. First one up, it looks like we have the first read of the board policy. There's no action on this one, so any questions for Ms. Bennett in regards to the first read? Sounds good. All right, well, hearing no questions, we'll move on then to increase in personal inventory. So that'll be Mrs. Bennett as well.
So in your packet, you have a request for a district-wide translator, which is a full year position. The district currently employs 4 school year translators that support our buildings at this point. This summer, we've made the transition from the translators working within the language learners department over to the communications team, feeling like that would provide some better collaboration between the departments and providing additional support across the district. So I've spent some time this summer just analyzing the work of the translators this last year, utilizing our Fix-It system. And we've had a lot of conversations about what types of support we would need to be providing to parents coming off of our year of COVID. And just building some more structured engagement materials for them going forward. There are some additional needs that are referenced within the memo. So at this point, I just one more point. We are moving this position to another category within the collective bargaining agreement. It would be moving over to lane 8. Our building positions right now are in the lane 6. So this is a district-wide position that has some support roles built into that job description that will assist those building level translators. So any questions at this time?
Hearing no questions, thank you very much.
I need a motion to approve the personal inventory increase of 1.0 FTE district translator.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Larson. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. DeVera?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Ms. Lee? Yes.
And the motion passes. All right, next up we have Ms. Danf with the professional learning.
All right, so Donnie and I had originally envisioned 2 TA positions for instructional tech support, but as we were talking through and just talking with the union and other stakeholders, we realized that a lot of the things that we need out of these positions really fall more within the purview of a certified role. So we're requesting decreasing those 2 unfilled instructional support TA positions and replacing them with a single certified instructional technology development specialist.
Any questions?
I need a motion to approve the personal inventory decrease of 2.0 FTE instructional support TA positions and personal inventory increase of 1.0 FTE instructional technology development specialist certified position.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Motion passes. Dr. Apgar.
In January of 2018, the board approved a lead nurse stipend, and the vision for that role were for duties to be completed outside the workday. Given the needs of the district and changes for health guidelines in the state, it's important for those duties to be completed during the workday. So what we would do was to reduce a nurse and the stipend and increase a health services facilitator. And by removing that stipend, it would be a reduction in expenditure for the district of around $7,500.
All right, any questions?
All right. I need a motion to approve the personal inventory reduction of 1.0 FTE nurse and lead nurse stipend and the personal inventory increase of 1.0 FTE health services facilitator.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mr. Devera. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes. And motion passes. Next up is now Mrs. Cacciatore.
I was just so excited about it that I couldn't wait. As you read in your memo and as you've seen, things are starting to get a little bit more normal for competitive activities and athletics. So in conjunction with that, we have started to sign up for some competitive marching band competitions for this coming school year. One of those which is at U of I at the Illinois Marching Band Competition. We have taken part in this competition for the past, I believe it's been 3 years. We were supposed to do it last year. Obviously that didn't happen, but we were excited that they were able to open up the registration again for us, and we were able to kind of sneak in as previously being registered. As this is over 200 miles round trip, we needed to come to the board for approval for that trip.
Only question I got is, are you issuing duck gear with it from the flooding that we had last time?
I think they are going to be taking some canopies to go over them just in case we have some similar weather as the last time we did go.
Sounds good. Any questions from the board in regards to Illinois Marching Band?
Is this the only competition that you guys will be doing?
No, I believe there's 4 other ones. There's the Mount Prospect one, Grace Lake North, Naperville, and I can't remember the other one.
This is the only one farthest away.
Right, this is the farthest.
All right.
This is the all day. They leave really early in the morning and come back pretty late at night.
Questions? Okay. I need a motion to approve the 2021 Illinois Marching Band Competition field trip request to University of Illinois on October 23rd, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Francisco, seconded by Ms. Lee. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
And motion passes. All right, next up we got Dr. Rowling.
Good evening. So this is a request from the high school to bring in a nationally renowned speaker for the student body, paid for through the Gorder Foundation funds. There is a backup plan in the case that we would need to switch to a virtual presentation. Any questions?
Hearing no questions.
I need a motion to approve the Conscious Campus contract.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Ms. Larson. Roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, next up is Mr. Kozik with the ID printing.
The tech team was tasked with looking for a ID vendor that specializes in student IDs. Historically, we've used LifeTouch in this manner. LifeTouch is a photographer by trade and not necessarily an ID vendor. The solution in front of you is a 3-year agreement. It allows us to save dollars over the 3-year time frame, as well as solves for 3 different capabilities. One, it provides our buildings the ability to produce a real-time ID, allows for all the information that we need on IDs, both now and in the future, to be available to us.
Any questions?
Need a motion for approval of the 3-year managed services agreement with CI Solutions at $14,340 a year, totaling $43,020. Administration also requests that the board authorize the superintendent or his designee to execute any and all documents related to this agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Motion passes. And we're still with Mr. Kozik.
This is the 5th renewal with Infinite Connections for our E-Ray processing consultant. This year is very similar to previous years in the fact that there are 2 aspects of E-Rate that we typically work with Infinite Connections with. Those will continue. However, this year there's another fund, an emergency connectivity fund, $7.1 billion allocation that this district is eligible for. This is rolled into the scope of this agreement as well.
Questions? Hearing none.
Need a motion to approve the renewal of our E-rate consulting services agreement with Infinite Connections with the additional EFC grant scope expected in the summer of 2021. Authorize the superintendent to renew the E-rate consulting services agreement, including the FCC connectivity grant for summer 2021 with Infinite Connections as outlined. Authorize the superintendent or his designee to execute any and all documents related to the annual renewal of our E-rate consulting services agreement with Infinite Connections.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Larson, second by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Motion passes. Dr. Kibbins, Organic Life.
Good evening, Board. As you know, Organic Life is our food service vendor. The Board of Education did approve the renewal of their contract for a 1-year extension. However, due to Illinois minimum wage law, which goes into effect in January, it would cause an amendment to the contract. And so at this point, in order for our full contract renewal to be accepted by the Illinois State Board of Education, they are just strongly encouraging / very strongly encouraging that we amend our contract to support the minimum wage requirements that go into effect January 1. And as a reminder, Organic Life employees are not part of the District 116 employee. They are certainly members of the extended family as we partner with all of our vendors, but they are technically an Organic Life employee.
Any questions?
All right, I need a motion to approve the State of Illinois minimum wage increase amendment with the Organic Life food service contract.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Francisco, seconded by Ms. Larson. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. DeVera.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Ohio Pile is a vendor that we have used for the past 2 years to support the spiritware and some of our local organizations, meaning CVS, Walgreens, and we obviously, due to the pandemic last year, had a decrease in what that percentage of those dollars that were gained. For the 1920 school year, the district received $350.67. For the 2021 school year, we received $134.83. So in addition to expanding those locations, we're looking forward to another year of partnership pending Board of Education approval.
No questions, but just to reiterate, like as Pam said, we are extending their locations. This came to the Finance Committee, so it'll be at CVS, the Walgreens in Round Lake, and the Walgreens in Haynesville, and the Jewel Osco in Round Lake Beach. And I need a motion for the renewal of the Ohio Pile royalty agreement and authorize the administration to execute all required documents.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mr. DeVera. Roll call, please.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. DeVera,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco.
Yes. Motion passes.
Mrs. Beliciotis and myself are once again have the honor and pleasure to be recommended pending Board of Education as the 21-22 IRMRF authorized agents.
Any questions?
Need a motion to approve the appointment of Ms. Chrissy Bellasotis and Dr. Pam Kibbens as the Round Lake Area Schools District Number 116 IMRF authorized agents and direct administration to execute all documents relating to these appointments.
So
moved. Second. Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mr. Francisco. Roll call, please.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. DeVera,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Ms. Lee.
yes.
Motion passes.
Pending Board of Education approval, I'd be honored to be approved as the district treasurer for Round Lake School District 116 for the 2021-2022 school year.
I need a motion to approve the continued appointment of Dr. Pamela Kibbens as the Round Lake Area Schools Community Unit School District 116's treasurer and direct administration to execute all documents relating to this approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Francisco, seconded by Mrs. Larson. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mr. DeVera,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Ms. Lee.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Per Board of Education Policy 4:30 Revenue and Investments, the Board of Education is to approve where our financial depositories are. Those depositories that are listed have not changed since last year. This not only reflects our local financial depositories, but also our bonding agents as well.
Need a motion to approve the list of public depositories and authorize board officers and district administration to execute all documents related to these depositories.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call.
Mr. Tavera?
Yep.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Lakeside Transportation Contract for 2021-2022 school year provides services to students that we aren't able to service within our current transportation system. They have been an excellent partner to us with a minimum increase for next year. You will see, in addition to the contract, an updated insurance agreement as well.
I need a motion to approve the 2021-2022 Lakeside Transportation Contract and authorize the administration to execute all required documents.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Motion passes.
The Apple lease before you represents our continuation and support of the one-to-one program and the leasing of those items. The 4-year lease agreement through Apple does reflect a 0% interest rate for the 4 years of that term.
I need a motion to approve the 4-year 0% interest rate lease agreement with Apple Inc. and authorize administration to execute all required documents.
So
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Ms. Larson. Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Francisco?
Yep.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Tavera?
yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Municipal Research Services provides support to us for a requirement within our fiscal audits. They have been an excellent partner and have expanded their demographics and opportunities to enhance our existing, not only complete financials, but also the documents that are submitted for some of the recognition that the business office and the district has received.
I need a motion to approve the Municipal Research Service Inc. agreement in the amount of $1,500.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Francisco, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mrs. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes. And the motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Kippen. All right, next up we are to positive occurrences. So I will open the floor to positive occurrences.
Just a reminder, yearbooks are in, so run and get them.
I will also mention that my son actually went to the University of Iowa with the wrestling camp. There were about 6 Round Lake wrestlers, 5 from the high school, 1 from the middle school, which was him. It was a great camp. Definitely thank the athletic boosters and the McCains for the great opportunity that was put through there. Definitely look forward to seeing more and more as we start coming out of the pandemic, being able to have those camp opportunities again. And again, to Ms. Negrete McGinley's position about how we build that athletic program. That's the way we do it. We start in the summer. We start with those individualized camps.
I'm just super excited to see everyone's face.
I'm still trying to make sure that I don't wrinkle my nose and my mouth weirdly. Anyone else? All right, well, I guess I'll throw in that I'm glad that we're at 8:45 right now and we're already here, so this is good off of this agenda. All right, next one up is future agenda items. Anybody have anything they want to put on the docket? Hearing nothing, we will move then to take a motion to move into closed session. And it would help if I knew what I was doing. And we need to have a motion to move into a closed session for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employees of the district or legal counsel of the district, per section 120-2, section C1.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Larson,
Yes.
Mrs. McKinley,
Yes.
Mr. DeVera,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Ms. Lee.
Yes.
We are moving into closed session. Thank you very much. We will not have an open session afterwards, so thank you very much, as this will conclude the open session part of the meeting for tonight.